The following program is rated TV MAL. It contains strong language and is intended only for mature audiences.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
Go right on there.
Yeah, they're dead. They're all messed up.
Fuck! Mr. Cooper, can you hear me?
Cooper, you open the store right now. We need those doors, Cooper. Cooper, I got a shotgun out here. You open the store, you motherfucker. I swear I'll blow this shit.
Season 2 of Brains and Brews. Bro, I gotta tell you, I'm glad that we decided we were gonna do this again. Out of all the ones we've done, this is one of the ones that, we have a lot of fun. Maybe because we get really, really toasty by the end. I'm glad we're doing this, and we're gonna kick off Season 2, Night of the Living Dead. Our first season, we did the OG. For this one, we're doing the 1990 version. If you have not seen it, shame on you. As I said, this was released in 1990. It was directed by Tom Savini. This one starred the late Tony Todd as Ben, Patricia Tallman as Barbara, and Tom Tolles as Harry. If you saw the first one, it's a remake. This is also the beginning of the remakes. Thankfully, we're so used to when we hear the word remake now, it sends a shiver. So, I'm gonna ask you, oh no, you know what, bro? I need to find out what you're drinking. It's been a while we've done this show.
It's been a while.
It's been a while. So if we seem a little rusty, it's because it's been over a year. Actually, the first
I
episode.
promise you, we haven't taken one sip of beer yet. So
first episode dropped December 25th, 2022.
And that was the original Night of the Living Dead.
Yep, shameless plug there, I know.
It's funny because this time of year, I like to buy variety packs. So I bought one. It was from Two Roads, a good buddy of mine. Well, if you're a friend of the channel or a viewer of the channel, so to speak, you know P. Rockzilla. He loves Two Roads. I picked up a big case of that, but they always come with a rotating pack of 3 beers that are brand new all the time. So this one here, I got the Coast Rider. It's the American IPA. It is a 6.3 alcohol volume, so it's a little bit stronger than, say, like a Corona or regular Sam's, but it's just on the border of getting you nice and toasty, so you're not gonna get too fucked up. Cheers, my brother.
Cheers.
Yeah, 6.3. Good flavor, little bitter, but in a good way. Unlike the Honey Spot ones that are the all-day IPAs, I've been sipping on those all throughout the holidays because they're the perfect one to drink along the day if you're gonna be drinking a lot. Those are kind of gross though, very watered down in my opinion. These are actually pretty tasty so far.
Part of the reason we started doing this was to introduce new beers. One of the beers that I spoke about in our first season, which is Sweetwater's 420. I did find out, and you can go to the website on this, I thought it was pretty cool for 2 things. They say it was first conceived in our bat cave on 420. Dude, and I read that, I'm like, how awesome is that? It is a 5.7, so it's not up to Rick's. It's not an all-day IPA. It's one that when I introduced the viewers and myself to the beer, I've actually gone back to this one a few times. That's how good it is.
Usually like 4.8 around there.
That's what I'm saying. It's above there.
It's not bad. It's pretty good.
It's one. Don't do more than a 6-pack. When we do the live stream, I'm gonna bring a new beer for that one. I'm even going just a little bit higher. But yeah, this is one. Again, I recommended Sweetwater 420. Once I read the origin, even better. It gave it a superhero origin. It came out of a bat cave on 420.
Bitch got some kind of hot shit gun, like an M16 or something. He starts shooting well. Bullets tearing up the place. I saw one of those things take 30 hits and keep on coming. The damn thing had to be dead, but it kept on coming. Till it took a hit in the head. That brought it down. The only way to stop him, you gotta...
Obviously, when you're watching it, there were some changes. Sometimes changes can either fuck up your movie or make it better. Or you make a remake where 2 movies stand on their own. I know that a lot of people aren't fans of this one. I'd like this one too. I love the original one, but I like the changes. Because honestly, if I was gonna watch a remake, maybe we didn't want to see the same exact thing. You know, for that, you could have just added color to the black and white one and call it a day. So changing some stuff about the characters actually, for me, improved the movie. Barbara, for example, she grew some balls. You know, she was actually more able to want to fight and defend herself and defend the place. You know, the other Barbara was a little bit more meek. And I also liked Ben. And I liked that in this, Ben and Barbara were kind of equal. And Barbara, like, gave them some of the common sense.
What I loved about this, as far, you know, I'm not a big fan of remakes, you know that. Me and you are on the same wavelength when it comes to like our opinions on remaking films. But this one here I do support because for the very reason this wasn't done just for a cash grab or just to, you know, make money off the Night of the Living Dead title. Again, I gotta say this before I give my opinion because this is very important in case the viewers don't know the history behind this film. Of course, the original Night of the Living Dead from the 60s was put out and they fucked up and they removed the trademark off of the title, meaning they made no money off of the original film because it's not trademarked. Anyone, me and you, for example, could make a Night of the Living Dead movie, not get sued, make money off it because it's in the public domain. So to counter that, Romero and company were like, you know what? Let's remake the film, copyright it, fix, you know, a few of the issues that the original film had, and actually try and make some fucking money off this.
Yeah, I mean,
Romero created Night of the Living Dead, and the fact that him and his team, whether it's the people in production, the crew, the actors, they made almost no money off of this fucking film, unfortunately. So now this is a chance for them to make a little bit of money back, and which is pretty cool. And again, the change, like you mentioned, a lot of the issues with the original film was Barbara. She was so, like you mentioned, meek. She was a worthless character, and her demise in the first film, it was lame. It was just, you know, gets dragged away, and that's it.
by her brother.
And that's a character we opened up the film with. So all of a sudden, like, what the fuck? So yeah, you know, they made it a point to make Barbara a strong character in this, which is pretty damn cool. And I can see how it could ruffle a few feathers with a certain crowd, but even as it kind of went a little bit too far at times, but they reeled it back in and they made her a very strong, very compelling character, very likable, especially by the end of the film. The cast is great that they picked for it. You know, you mentioned Tony Todd, of course, was excellent. The Tom Tolles, man, this is the first film I seen him in. It's so entertaining, due in part by the characters, the performances, and it's just a good, fun movie. It goes by quickly, and yeah, I can't complain about it, man. As far as remakes are concerned, if you're gonna remake a film, do it for the greater good, man. You know, don't do it just, you know what? We're creatively bankrupt. What can we do? Well, let's bring Night of the Living Dead back. You know what I'm saying?
For one thing, I thought it made it contemporary. Because obviously, where the original came out, you know, the sign of the times are totally different. And we've discussed, you know, messaging in movies and doing it the right way. And this one, I mean, it wasn't exactly like that, but at the same time, it still made it more modern, but without making it look like it still looked like it took place in the 60s. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So,
and it's interesting because the dynamic between Harry and Ben in this film, in my opinion, it's more dynamic because in a way, even though Harry was very like abrasive and obnoxious, but he was right if you think about it. Yeah. And Ben made some questionable choices. And as far as the TV, I'm sorry, I'm with Harry. I don't think Harry was bringing it down to the cellar because, like he says, in the basement, you can't get reception in the cellar, you dickhead. You know what I mean? So it is true. So they started fighting over they broke the TV. So I think Ben was a bit more aggressive in this one. And I think in this film, between Tony Todd and Dwayne Jones's interpretation of the character of Ben, I think it's night and day because, you know, in the original film, of course, Ben, more of a hero, right? A sympathetic hero in a sense, especially at the end of the film. But in this movie, Tony Todd's character, his characterization of Ben was a bit more realistic because he made mistakes. He wasn't always right. Harry was right at some points, and so was Ben. So the dynamic in this movie I loved because it's on a realistic scale. There is no heroes or villains in this. It's one, you know, we got Harry who's afraid. He has his family to look after. He doesn't want anyone to make decisions for him that's going to endanger his family. He thinks he knows what's right. Ben, the same thing. He's more of a stronger character, more in your face. He's gonna take control and take lead. You got two big egos butting heads, but in a different way. And I love the dynamic between them two in this movie.
So they still get the Shamblers. Actually, the makeup was much better than the original one. I mean, we can't get around that.
Yeah,
The makeup was much better. The way that the zombies walked was much better.
And these zombies are fresh. They weren't corpses yet. They were freshly dead people, so they're not gonna look like decaying, rotting, skeletal monsters. You know, they're still human beings that just got up. So that's why the makeup was a bit more subdued. You know, but that's by design, you know?
Did you like that Tom's decision on the makeup work?
Yeah.
That we're still as Shamblers and the improvements that were done from the original one.
Let's talk about the improvements. Yeah, I did like that. Absolutely. Like I mentioned, because watching this movie again recently, it's crazy seeing like characters. For example, when a zombie broke in and then, you got Barbara shooting him and she's yelling, "Is he dead? You know, is he dead?" Or whatever. She's proving that the motherfucker's not alive. He's taking bullets, and you got Harry. He's like, "Oh my god, what the fuck?" So they're new to this. They don't understand what's going on yet. So I love seeing the zombie apocalypse through these fresh eyes. That's the biggest strength in the Daryl Dixon series, because there's a few episodes with flashbacks prior to the zombie apocalypse when it starts happening, and you're seeing the reactions for the first time. You don't get that often anymore. And I love that in this movie, it still felt the danger and the threat was still fresh and new to these characters. They had no idea what's going on. And the changes, what I would say is, you said this movie is a lot gorier. And I mean, it is probably more violent. They do show more. Yeah, I would say that. But what a lot of people don't realize is this movie is in fact heavily edited. There is no original version out there, but there's clips out there where you can see the original clips that were taken out. Like there's a scene when a Shambler is walking towards Tommy when he's in the bed of the truck. In the version we see, as soon as it comes to him, he shoots the shotgun and it cuts over back to Ben. The original version, when he shoots, he literally blows the zombie's head off. It like total Dawn of the Dead fucking moment. Big head explosion removed. If you notice, again, the scene when I told you with Barbara shooting that one bald zombie to prove that he's dead, in the original version, as she's shooting him, blood is like squirting everywhere. And here, they removed the blood digitally. So when she's shooting, all you see is the bullet holes, but there's no blood. And after watching that, for me at least, it did make me feel like, oh, this movie's a little bit more inferior now. Because knowing how much gorier it could, and when I say gorier, it's not nothing crazy, but we've seen this before, but the fact that they removed it from the film, and the film is just devoid of gore. That's my biggest complaint about the film. That head explosion looked fucking gnarly too, by the way. Oh, so good. They cut it out. Dang, have it.
Tom didn't make the ghouls, because remember, they weren't zombies yet.
The ghouls, you're right. You're right.
He did not make the ghouls his. He still had Romero's blueprint to be able to put in there. So, he paid an homage and said, "George, this is what we could have done." And I'm sure George went, "Man, you should have told me." It was an homage. I liked that they still, they didn't go running. They walked slowly. They walked the way that somebody who just walked out of a morgue, came out of a fucking coffin, trying to learn how to walk, You
mentioned that the walking. I love how they knew that fans were expecting certain scenes to happen as it did in the original version, and they completely switched it up on you. But let's give my boy Bill Moseley his flowers for this film too, man. Like,
oh yeah,
he was great as Johnny. That one scene when he's like, they had to drive over 50,000 miles from the nearest glass of beer. I'm like, yeah, you're right. Like when I watched this with my brother back in the day, he always said the same shit, like, ain't no beer, I ain't going. But he was great. And the fact that in the original, when like, look, there's one of them now. That scene, and the guy slowly comes into frame, and this one, the guy comes up, he's some regular scare guy. When he bounces, then the real threat jumps in there, and Barbara's like, and Johnny's like, what the hell? That's good stuff, man. And his rubber head hitting the grave was fucking great too. I mean,
like I said, like even the beginning, I liked how the beginning was the same, but yet subtly different.
You know what was great as far as being different? In the original, they had, the original did it too, but it reminded me of this cinematography. I love it when they slowly show, especially at night, the Shamblers slowly walking towards the farmhouse, right? And every time, within every, 10 to 15 minutes, they cut back to there's more and more of them. That's when they get like near the end of the naked chick, or they kept the naked chick again. But if you notice, every time it cuts back to it, there's always more and more and more zombies approaching the farmhouse. That's a pretty cool little touch.
Yeah,
I never really
you didn't
caught
get that.
before.
You didn't get that in the. Yeah, it just again, not many remakes can be a good standalone remake, and this one is.
Patricia Tallman, great as Barbara. She looked fucking smoking hot too. She was in Night Riders. That's when she first worked with Romero. I mean, if you're a Romero fan like me, everybody was in fucking Night Riders. Of course, you know, Tommy, you know, I forgot, Jesus Christ, Butler, William Butler, I think his name is. He's in a lot of fucking horror films. Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3 with my boy Ken Foray. He was in that, but yeah, he's all over it. He was one of the first. He was actually in Friday the 13th, the one where the birthday boy is coming home, but he doesn't make it. They kill him off, and that's when that's the first Tommy Jarvis film, I believe. He was in that movie. He was the guy that they're throwing a party for, and he didn't make it. Unfortunately.
That was.
Oh, he's in a lot of horror films, man, and he went on to become a director himself too. So this movie has some great talent behind it, man. I love the cast in this film.
The pacing was better in this one.
It's that beer talking.
It went, I know.
Cheers, brother. No, sir.
Cheers, because I'm like, yeah, we're down here, and I'm gonna, because it's time to rate the beer. And as I said, it's one that I keep coming to, and because I was like, all right, we gotta do brains, so just sip the beer this time, because if y'all don't know,
what's the scale? We haven't done
six
this in a while.
Six pack. It's a six pack. How many cans in the six pack? I'm feeling kind of nice. So because I told y'all already, it's one that I keep going back to. This is definitely a six pack for me.
Ooh, a six pack. All right. So far out of the 6, I'll give this one so far a 4. A 4 out of 6 right now. As far as taste, because that's important. Taste is very important. And so far, no crazy buzz yet. But again, we not too far into this so far. But yeah, I would say a 4 out of 6 so far, which is I think that's a pretty good score.
You can't get any reception in the basement, dickhead!
So any last words for this 1990 great as hell remake of the OG?
Absolutely. My last final closing thoughts on this film. I mean, I love the creepy southern twang soundtrack this movie had, like the percussion they used, like the kind of banjo-ish like guitar strings that were creeping and weaving in and out of the atmosphere in this film. I loved all that stuff, man. It was so good. And let's talk about the dialogue. But there's one scene in particular here when Ben is trying to get the wooden doors, the old doors that were taken out, because when he was upstairs and he saw the new doors that were put in, he's like, oh, these are no good. And Tommy's like, he's like, come on, Ben, there's something or whatever he said, and Ben punches right through it. He's like, no good. Like, I love that motherfucker. Then when he goes downstairs, and he knows, oh fuck, I gotta deal with this asshole now. So he's knocking on the door, Cooper. And, this guy's ignoring him. He's like, Cooper, open this door, Cooper. And Cooper's still ignoring him, arguing with his wife. And you hear like Ben through the door. He's like, Cooper, I'm gonna give it to the count of 3. He's like, that's 3, Cooper. Then he's like, that's 2, Cooper. What you gonna do? And then I died. He's like, Cooper, open this door, you motherfucker, while blowing the shit. He gets a shock. Like, what the fuck? I'm sorry. I might be the only one that finds this dialogue funny, bro.
It is.
I went on
it
the
was.
Fucking floor. Love this shit, bro. Bro.
The dialogue's always is a bit of a sign of the times, and it's still kind of a little bit of a throwback to the original one too. So if for whatever reason you have not checked this movie out, check it out. Night of the Living Dead, 1990, directed by the man himself, Tom Savini. There's a crazy hiccup in this film that I've always hated, and I saw this video recently on YouTube. It must have been a version that was completely removed, because there's a scene when there's a zombie coming into the kitchen, and Ben grabs that pot that was on the stove cooking. He grabs it, he throws the fucking burnt food off and starts smacking the guy with it. The guy wouldn't stop, so he grabs like a crowbar or something. He runs and he's gonna smash him through the eye, and it breaks right through the window. But if you look right before he hits him, in the window right in the background, you see the cameraman filming the fucking scene right before the window breaks. And I'm like, oh man, how did they not love
see
those
that?
shots.
How did they not miss that?
I know, but I love that because that's what gives you, it shows you the work. I know. It shows you the work that was done. It doesn't
devalue the film at all for me. I just find it funny. There's some scenes like when Uncle Reed he's getting his head smacked up, you know, by Barber with the crowbar, and you could tell it's a rubber head, like bonk, bonk, bonk. It's like, you know, little things like that. That's it. It hasn't aged very well, unfortunately. But yeah, man, I love this film. It's so much fun. It goes by quick. You can't go wrong with either version, and they're different enough that this movie is the perfect companion piece to the 60s version.
Make sure to tune in next time. Hit subscribe. Hit that follow to get all the updates. And if you're out and about and you see somebody walking slowly to you, run, because you don't want to get motherfucking bit.
These devils be savages, slim to none chance with the averages. Sitting on the low like you added slick. Darkness make you disappear like a magic trick. Put up to the table, come down and sit. These devils try to tie you the crown with it. Now you surrounded by counterfeits, trying to chop you up into 1,000 bits.